Mr. Engel, the chief sponsor of the House companion measure.
Gentleman's recognized.
I thank my friend from Virginia for yielding to me. I want to thank my friend from Florida, Mr. Stearns, for his kind words, and also the kind words of the gentleman from Virginia. And I rise today in strong support of my legislation, the Truth in Caller ID Act. This is about as bipartisan as a bill can be. We have passed this bill several times in the House, only to have it not move through the other body, and I'm delighted that for the first time we've had it pass in the other body. And so now, when we pass this bill, hopefully the President will sign it into law, and we will finally have a stoppage of this fraud which is being perpetuated on the American people. I originally read an article in a newspaper on a plane talking about what was going on with spoofing. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. How could this be legal? How could we just turn a blind eye to it? And then I realized we needed to have legislation. We have been supported every step of the way, again, bipartisan, by a gentleman from California, Mr. Waxman, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Barton. We've all worked on this legislation together. I introduced the bill because we need an immediate change in our laws to help prevent identity theft, to crack down on fraudulent phone calls, and to protect legitimate uses of caller ID technology. We've seen, as my colleagues have mentioned, a large number of cases of caller ID fraud leading to illegal or even violent activities. Last year, the New York City Police Department uncovered a massive identity theft ring where criminals stole more than $15 million from over 6,000 people. They were able to perpetuate this fraud in many instances by using caller ID spoofing. In another case, a person in New York called a pregnant woman who she viewed as a romantic rival, spoofing the phone number of the woman's pharmacist. She tricked the woman into taking a drug used to cause abortions. Caller ID fraud has even been used to prank call the constituents of a member of this body, with the caller ID readout saying it came from that member's office. Just imagine if people committed this fraud in the days leading up to a close election. I mean, you could see it. You spoof the number of your political opponent, you call someone at 3 o'clock in the morning, you say something obnoxious on the phone, and then the constituents are angry and not going to vote for that person. This is all perfectly legal up until the passage of this bill. I've said again and again that one of the most troubling aspects of caller ID spoofing is not simply that it's legal. What disturbs me is how incredibly easy it is to carry out caller ID fraud. Criminals use a tool called a spoof card to change their outgoing caller ID, so you could look at it and see a phone number, any phone number that person wants to put down. They can do it, and the person getting the call has totally no idea where it's coming from, or thinks it's coming from a place where obviously it's not. This technology can even be used to disguise someone's voice in order to trick people. If it's a man doing it, he can change the voice to sound like a woman, and vice versa. So it can be done completely to trick people. This can trick people, corporations, or even banks. Imagine senior citizens who see the number of their bank put up when they take a look and see who's calling, and it's fraudulent, or their doctor, or their pharmacist, or a close family member, or a close family friend. This is terrible, and this tool is available to anyone with access to a web browser. So as was pointed out, the technology has gotten easier and easier for someone to perpetuate this fraud. This legislation will outlaw caller ID spoofing when the intent is to defraud, cause harm, or wrongfully obtain anything of value. And let me say, we have had many, many hearings on this bill. And the reason why this outlaws caller ID spoofing when the intent is to defraud or cause harm, as my colleagues have pointed out, we put that in the bill based on the hearings we had, because we don't want some legitimate reasons to use this technology to be outlawed. So it's only outlawed when the intent is to defraud, cause harm, or wrongfully obtain anything of value. We won't be challenging the rules for legitimate uses of this technology. For example, Domestic abuse shelter will still be able to change their number on caller ID to protect the occupants of the shelter. We have some scrambling right here in the Capitol as a result to protect very important private numbers. That won't be changed. So again, I'm pleased that this bill passed the House in the 109th and 110th Congress. This is now the 111th. We're about to pass it. The Senate has done it for the first time, and so I look forward to the President signing this bill into law. I strongly urge my colleagues to support the Truth in Caller ID Act to outlaw this type of fraud once and for all. Thank my colleagues again for their support, and I yield back my time.